Hey guys, good to be back with you. It's Pastor Rudolph here, and again, I want us to look at this book I'm reading through. It's called Scripture Twisting, and I'm going through every single way in which the cults can twist the scripture. This one is a little bit interesting. It's called the obvious fallacy, and it's very interesting for various reasons, but James Sire depicts this fallacy as being the use of general words and phrases to substitute interpretations of scripture for logical reasoning. And it happens when people read something into the text, they take specific words and they will interpret those words to mean something else. An example of this would be, there was an author a few years back by the name of Erich von Däniken, who would, for instance, speak of the Ark of the Covenant that Moses used, and he would say that it was electrically charged. He would use the different words in the text and say, you see, when you look at these words, this is two conductors, and the two angels as conductors, and there's a positive and a negative. And he would just reinterpret words like that. And in most recent times, I see a lot of people doing that. For instance, with Ezekiel's vision in Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 48, where the prophet Ezekiel is obviously seeing something that describes a vision, and he speaks of wheels within a wheel, and he speaks of those living creatures with the four faces and the wings. And I've heard now so many times people reinterpreting just wheels within a wheel and these living creatures to mean something else than what the text says. And obviously they interpret it as being aliens, right? Another one which is also interesting is found in 2 Kings 2 verse 11, where Elijah is taken up to heaven in a chariot of fire. And some texts would speak of horses of fire. Some modern interpreters would say, you see, the horses it's speaking of something living, and this is an alien encounter. Another one, which is also very interesting, is in Exodus chapter 13, where Moses encounters God, and obviously God hears the prayers of the Israelites, and he guides them through the desert, and there's a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. They'll say, yeah, you see, this is obviously speaking of something which is far beyond just the normal interpretation. This is definitely alien technology that is utilized. Then people have even gone as far as to say over Christmas that when we look at the stars in Matthew chapter 2 verse 9, for instance, the star that guided the Magi to go to Jesus, which is a celestial phenomenon, they will say that this is obviously technology that was used by the aliens. So it's crazy to think that people will interpret the text that way, but unfortunately this is exactly what Sire is getting to. He is saying that a lot of people are interpreting the text in such a way that it only makes sense through the obscure. And so that's what I'm saying. They take words from these stories and they try to reinterpret those words to say something else than what it's actually and obviously saying. So Sire also mentions, and I want to read this in the book, he says quite clearly that this fallacy obviously lends itself to another fallacy as well. And let me read it to you. And this is, by the way, on page 100, if you want to go read it. He says the following: a related fallacy occurs when one develops a series of interlinking eccentric possible readings and then concludes that these eccentric interpretations support each other, and therefore they must be true. This is a series of speculations joined together to achieve the strength of what appears to be an integrated worldview. So what is attempted in this fallacy is to try to interpret the rest of the text in light of a outside of idea in scripture, and trying to reinterpret it in such a way that it only makes sense through the lens of which you personally read it. And so when we look at von Däniken, he is trying to tell us that UFOs exist, and UFOs functions in the following way. There's an electric magnetic pulse, and these energies are utilized by ancient civilizations, and the Bible records it in these instances. And that is just not the way to interpret the text. So yeah, that is a fallacy in and of itself. None of the biblical authors knew anything about UFOs, nor energies, nor ancient technologies. But it's a very interesting way to understand how modern thinkers are trying to reinterpret the scriptures, even though they are flatly wrong, I believe. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Don't want to make it too long. I said I'll stick to 5 minutes. Hope I got to it. But please remember to like, click, and subscribe, and be blessed, and I'll speak with you again.